And the next workshop, it's from Soar Business Development, Melanie Thornton. Just while Melanie's setting that up, Mel's focus is on, her workshop is the focus on building skills in creating rapport with clients, building those relationships for longevity, and upskilling in client retention activities, which I'm sure we can all benefit from. Well, that's been set up also. I would like to announce that for today only, if anyone wants to join the Maitland Business Chamber, we have a special offer of $100 there's no GST, so $100 for the remainder of the financial year. So we go from July through to June. If you want to join today, please see Kate over there and grab a bargain. Now it's over to Mel. I don't have anything else to say.
Okay.
At this point. You right?
Okay. All good. They told me to hold on a few minutes, so I was holding on a few minutes. But I don't need to. Hello, everyone. My name is Mel Thornton, and my business is Soar Business Development. And I am super duper excited to be here with you all today. But we have been sitting for a little while, and I know we're having lunch now, but I thought we could take an opportunity just for 30 seconds. We can't get up, we can't move around, but I thought if you want to stand up for a second, shake it out a little bit, stretch your limbs. It's been a little bit since we've moved, so please do so. Let's freshen up a bit. I know you all wanted to, didn't you? It's all good stuff. You can have a bit of a dance. I should have brought some music with me. Awesome. Although we're not technically allowed to dance anywhere at the moment, so maybe we need to sit back down. But I do want to run through quite a few things with you guys today. I'm in the business of people. That is what we do at Soar Business Development. We're a bit old school. We have huge respect for the marketers. I should check too. I'm not a big microphone person, don't like it. But can everyone at the back hear me? Am I projecting okay? Shush, Mr. Hamilton. Fantastic. If you can't hear me at any point, I can pick up the microphone and start working with that, but I prefer just to talk to you guys instead. So I'm in the business of people. It is what we do. I have huge respect for the marketers in the room and the people that work with traditional marketing and digital marketing, because we need that brand awareness and we need to be able to lead generate. And the guys from the hub who are coming on after me have some awesome ideas and tips for being able to utilise those sorts of services. But I want to go old school, and I'm all about relationships with people, building those, creating those, and making them work for your business. So we're going to spend a little bit of time today with a few of my key tips. We're doing a very accelerated version of what I would normally do in this sort of presentation. But I want to give you some inside tips about how to quickly build rapport with people, and then we're going to focus on my most favourite thing in the whole world, which is client retention. So I wanted to start today talking about the different types of business development: transactional sales versus relationship-centred sales. Sales tends to be a bit of a naughty word. People don't like to hear it, but it is what we all do. I don't care what your business is, whether you have a product or a service, at some point you need to sell that to somebody. And what you don't want to do is have a transaction. You don't want a really cold, awful sort of moment where you're pushing your product or service onto somebody without even understanding what their need is. You want to understand who you're talking about and find a solution for their problem. And you want to have a relationship-centred approach to your selling. So to do that, we have to learn how to interact with people. So I wanted to talk about the issue with sales, the reason that the word sales is taboo. Here we go. The reason that the word sales is taboo is because we've all had experiences with salespeople who are pushy and demanding and a little bit rude, and none of us enjoy that. So I want to run through a little bit of a scenario with you guys. I want you to put your best imagination caps on right now and think to yourselves for just a few minutes about this particular scenario. You're sitting in your office and you're working away, and in comes a coffee machine salesperson. And they walk into your reception and they stand there and say to you, "I sell amazing coffee machines. I don't know what you're doing today, but you need my coffee machine. I'm going to bring it in for you. You should probably get two. Your office is quite large. We're going to get them in different colours. You'd like red, wouldn't you? We'll get a red one and a black one. It'll be fantastic. Does the best coffee in town. I'll send you the bill." You sit there and before he's even finished, you've closed off. You're already thinking about how you can get this guy back out of the door. You have no interest in his coffee machines. You have no interest in doing business with him. You could be the biggest coffee lover in the world, and already you're saying no to this guy before he's even finished speaking. You imagine that scenario again. You're sitting in your office, typing away, doing your work, and in comes a person to talk to you. They ask you about how your day's been. They ask you about your business and what you do. They ask you about your life. They find out a few things about you. You mention that you really love coffee and you mention that it's been a long day, and he actually suggests that he has a bit of a solution for that. He has a coffee machine that he could bring in for you to trial if you'd like to test it, and he can make you a cup of coffee there. It's a very different experience, completely based around the fact that he hasn't come in to just tell you about his product. He's come in to get to know you, ask you questions about who you are, and find out whether or not there is a need that he can fill. And that is the difference between a transaction and a relationship-centered approach, so a solution-based selling approach, which is where you need to get to know your client. So how to build that relationship? It's a really simple thing that a lot of us don't realize. Ask people questions. Put your own agenda aside. Ask people questions. It is the key to an effective salesperson that is so easily overlooked all of the time because we get so caught up with our own agenda. We get really excited about the product or the service that we have, and we know it's good. We know they're going to benefit from having it. We know it's going to be great for them, and we know we've got targets to meet so we can put money in the bank. So it's really exciting to be able to go in there and talk about that stuff. And we forget to ask whether or not they might actually need that, or whether or not it is relevant to them, or whether or not they might end up being a great referral source for us, but not a fantastic client for us, because we haven't taken the time to get to know them. So my biggest tip for you when you're building relationships or building rapport with people is to ask them questions. There's some fairly basic human psychology that goes along with that. This is my favourite quote from Theodore Roosevelt. Teddy has quite a few fantastic quotes that I'm sure you've seen over the years, but this is my absolute favourite one. That no one cares how much you know until they know how much you care. And the biggest way you can show somebody how much you care is to ask them questions. Get to know who they are. I mentioned before that basic human psychology, and that comes around somebody needing to feel valued and needing to feel important. And if you are asking them questions and you're genuinely interested in the answers that they're giving you, then you're almost all the way there. So you've worked through, you've made this rapport, you've asked questions, and you've managed to get yourself a new client. Really, really exciting stuff. You've shown them that you cared, you put your own agenda aside, you stopped talking about yourself for 5 minutes, and you've managed to get yourself a client. Then we get to switch over to my most loved area of business, and it is the most underutilized area of business. I work with a range of different business owners, from large commercial enterprises through to small businesses and everything in between. And it is the one area that always needs work in a business, every single time. And that is client retention. So I'm going to spend the bulk of my talk today with you guys talking about client retention. We're going to run through really quickly a few key tips that I have. But first I wanted to explain to you why client retention is so important. Now, I talk about client retention in the form of snowballs. And this is a really strange thing, but hands up if you've been to the snow before. Awesome. Most of you have probably built a snowball. You've taken the time, you've scooped up some snow. I'm going to put that down for a second while I do this. So you've scooped up your snow and you've patted it all in and made it harder, and you've got some more. And you built yourself a snowball, this hard little compact snowball. And you get really excited about this because you're holding a snowball that you've built with your own hands. It's really awesome. Think about your clients in the same way. You've taken the time, you've asked them some questions, you've gotten to know them, you've found a solution for a problem that they have. You got yourself a client. This is really exciting. As business owners and as business professionals, we often get a little too excited about that. And we get really caught in our own self-praise of going, I got myself a client. New client, this is awesome. Let's all celebrate. We got a new client. This is great. And you hold your snowball, you hold your client. and you think that this is really awesome. And you continue to celebrate yourself, and you kind of sit it there out in front of you and go, I got a new one. Where can I get my next snowball from? This is great. Let's build another snowball. And what happens to this snowball that you've got sitting out here when you get so caught up either looking for where you could build your next snowball or just being so excited and so proud of yourself for achieving a snowball, you forget to actually do anything else with it. And can someone tell me what happens when you stand there and just hold your snowball for too long? It does. It melts. Amazing, really, what happens. But what happens is you look over half an hour later, or in business terms, you know, it might be a week, a month, 6 months from now, and that snowball doesn't exist anymore. You no longer have that customer and you no longer have that client. And why you don't have that customer or that client or that contact anymore is because they melted away. What you need to do if you want to keep your snowball is you need to keep working with it. You want to keep a snowball hard and fresh and ready to use, you need to keep working with it. You need to add some more snow to it. You need to keep compacting it. You can keep growing that snowball. It can get bigger. It can get to the point where you need to put it on the ground and start rolling it around. You can really do a lot with that snowball. But the minute you stop tending to it, it will start to melt. Client retention works in the same way. You've gone to all of that effort to get yourself a client. Now you need to make sure you continue to tend to it so that it doesn't melt away. So that is what I love the most. You can be really strategic in this space and make sure that you have strategies in place, which is what I'll talk about in a second, to make sure that your client retention is superior to everyone else in your marketplace. And it is really, really important to do so, because if you've got that relationship, you don't want to let it go. Now, the other big mistake I see businesses make all the time when it comes to client retention is that they think keeping that relationship going is continuously selling to their client. So they might touch base every couple of months, but the phone call or the interaction goes a little like this. Hi there, it's Mel from Soar Business Development. I just wanted to see if you needed any more sales training. Hi, it's Mel from Soar Business Development. I just wanted to see if there was anything else I can help you with. I haven't spoken to you for a couple of months. I'm purely calling or purely having an interaction with someone at that point to suit my own agenda. And we know we spoke when we were developing relationships and developing rapport with people before that we want to take our own agendas off the table. It's the same in client retention. We need to build these relationships with people and continue to work on them from a person-to-person point of view. I don't care if you're working with a CEO of a multinational company or if you are working with a small one-man small business. It makes no difference. They are all people. They all have lives, they all have interests, they all have hobbies, they all have families. Get to know the people you are interacting with, and the best client retention work comes from when you can keep it personal. So when I talk about client retention activity with my clients, we talk about all of those actions or activities that we can have with people that are outside of what we do in the business world with them. So get to know who they are, get to know what interests them, and then put a plan in place about how you can look after them and talk to them about those things. So when it comes to client retention, you want to make sure that you are planning for success. So you need to set a strategy in place of how regularly you want to contact these people, not just for your own business agenda, but so that you can get to know them. You might want to call and ask how their daughter's first day in kindergarten went. You might want to send an email about a sailing ship competition that's going on because you know they're an avid boating person. Whatever it is that interests them or that you guys have in common or that you know you can use about their life, you use that in your client retention and you set a plan in place and you keep it going. So you need to capture the right details. I'm a huge advocate of a really well-nourished CRM. Now, I don't care what businesses you're in. If you don't have a CRM, you are absolutely crazy. That is a client relationship management tool. So it's somewhere where you can store information about your clients. And what should be in there is not just the type of product that you want to sell them or the type of service you want to sell them. And it's not just their transaction history. You want to have some real credible information about who they are as people, who their business is, what their goals are, where they're going, who their family is, because that's what you're going to utilize in a good client retention plan. So we talked about asking questions. And when we ask questions, that's how we get that information. Now, someone who works really well in this space is smart enough to not just ask the questions and let it all go over your head, but they retain that information. They data dump at the end of an interaction with someone, they put all of that into their CRM. So you might find out that their favourite colour is pink and their kids go to school at Maitland Primary School and they shop here and they go to soccer on the weekend, and that's all awesome information, and you should put that in your CRM. Because when you go to make a phone call to them in 8 weeks' time, or you go to send them an email in 3 months' time, or you want to invite them somewhere to an event, you want to be able to check back into your CRM and go, oh, that's right, that person does this, or oh, that's right, that person likes this, and it instantly gives you rapport building actions and activities for when you make those calls. Once you've put those plans in place, it's even more important that you actually follow them. The other big mistake I see business owners make is they take all this time to build a plan, and they do manage to capture some information and they've got some data in their CRM, but then they get a bit busy finding new snowballs, that they forget to actually follow their own steps. So make sure that you prioritise client retention, because you don't want all of your snowballs to melt away. You don't want all of your clients to disappear while you're busy trying to chase the next one. Now, the other great thing about client retention is if you're tending your snowball really well and you're building it and you're growing that relationship with someone, what happens when you do that is that that person becomes invested in who you are as well. And that person really starts to value you because you are valuing them. And so what that leads to is ongoing referral sources from your clientele, not only because you're great at your job, because you should be great at your job, but you're also getting referrals because they engage with you as a person and they start to see you as a friend. So I want to refer to my friend Abby because she's beautiful and she does this and she takes care of people, and I know that she's going to look after everyone. And it becomes a very different talk track. And you don't have to spend nearly as much time lead generating when you have a great client retention plan, because your clients will do that for you. So when you're building a plan, you need to work out how often you want to contact someone. You need to work out what you want to do in those interactions, and then you need to work out how you're going to do that. So it might be dropping a coffee off to them, it might be making a phone call, it might be sending an email, it might be taking them out to a thank you lunch. Set all of this into your calendar, work out how often you want these activities to happen, and diarise it. Put it in there, make sure it happens. I just mentioned the calendar. So when we were talking about making sure these things don't fall through the cracks, put it in your calendar. For me, if things aren't in my calendar, they don't exist, they don't happen. So if you know in 8 weeks' time you want to make a phone call to someone to find out how their mum's hip surgery went, put it in your diary, put it in your calendar. Remind yourself that you want to contact that particular person to ask them how that went, or how this happened, or that an email to follow this up, or call in to say hi to them because you know it's going to be a big week for them. Whatever that activity is, make sure you diarise it, because as we've spoken about, it's very easy to get distracted and not actually follow through with these plans. But we don't want your snowballs to melt. So my biggest takeaway tips for today, and as I said, I've thrown a fair bit of information at you guys really quickly, and it would have been great to expand more, and maybe down the track we'll have an opportunity to be able to do that. But my biggest takeaways from this is that business development is all about relationships. It's not about sales. So it's all about asking questions, all about getting to know someone. It's all about engaging with them. It's not about just forcing your product or service onto someone. Pay attention and note it down. When you're asking those questions, pay attention to what they're telling you. Fill your CRM up with fantastic, good information about the people you work with. Client retention work is the most important work of all. There is no doubt about it. As I said, you won't have to spend nearly as much time lead generating once you have a really great client retention plan, because the client retention plan will start to take care of that for you. And build a manageable plan that you can then maintain. So make sure all of that is happening and doesn't get left behind. I think Michael will be now asking if you guys have any questions, but I brought up my own slide. I like to be prepared. Does anyone have any questions? Go for it.
What would form the foundation of your customer retention strategy?
What would form the foundation? Interesting question. So for me, I always start with the how often. And most interactions, I would say 6 to 8 weeks in between interactions. Anything more than about 10 weeks, if you've gone 10 weeks without touching base with a client, especially if you're a business-to-business salesperson or in that sort of industry, any more than about 10 weeks and it starts to go a little bit cold. So you start with the time frame because that'll tell you how many interactions you'll need in the year. And then you work out what sort of interactions you want from there. You can have multiple client retention plans working at any given moment. So I often categorize people for my clients into prospects, and you have a certain type of client retention plan which might have a really low budget to it for your prospects. And then you have one for your clients, which is a slightly more involved client retention plan where you spend a bit more time nurturing your clients and making sure that they're well looked after. You might drop them off a Christmas gift or take them out to a thank you lunch. There's a little bit more of a budget often involved in a client retention plan. And then I usually have the biggest client retention plan, the one with the most dollars spent in it for my clients is actually the referral source client retention plan. So those people who constantly give you business outside of their own custom, then they're the people that I really look after, and you would spend the most money on them, take them out to lunch, give them some gifts, and then obviously get to know who they are as people and personalise everything you do to them. So I'd start with time and then work out from there, Shane. Thank you. Any more questions? Throwing you all on the spot? Awesome. Well, it was great to be able to present to you guys today. I've really enjoyed my time. And if anyone would like to catch up at any point, I'd certainly be happy to do that.
Thank you, Mel.